Episode 9 of Sir Ulric hosts Money Matters, and this episode is a special one to me because I get to bring on two of my friends that have impacted my journey in the Bitcoin space over the last couple months and last few years. Without further ado, I do want to make sure that these people who work in the backgrounds get a chance to have their opinions, their insights brought to light. And it's my pleasure to bring them. Without further ado, Chris and Hurley, both my coworkers from Swan. Chris, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Ulric. Happy to be here. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. And Hurley, my brother, what's up?
What's happening, Ulric? Good to see you, man.
Okay. First of all, like I said, my coworkers from Swan. For those who don't know, I do also part-time work working on short video essays, 10-minute video essays called Swan Originals. And Hurley is my functional lead, or my functional lead. And Hurley, I kind of just want to get into what exactly do you do with Swan besides what I've already mentioned? Could you expand on that?
Sure. I mean, I joined Swan almost, in about a month, it'll be 2 years. And I came on coming from a traditional kind of TV film background as an editor and story producer. And I came on wanting to work in Bitcoin content, basically. I came on as an editor for Hard Money, actually, with Natalie Brunell for I was editing that, packaging that when we were still doing kind of like a live studio show. And then I switched over to just the little mini documentaries with Natalie as VO. So I was doing that. And then my role kind of grew into helping with other video content. I helped with the Welcome to Bitcoin course, also with Natalie Brunell. Did different kind of like marketing and promotional videos for them. And then when Nico Moran and of Simply Bitcoin, and P came on board, we kind of shifted our YouTube. We kind of shifted our focus to YouTube because at the time we had two separate YouTubes. We started a new one for Hard Money, which in hindsight probably wasn't the best strategy. So we shifted strategies to focus on the Swan handle to try to grow that channel as best as possible by posting regularly, by really starting to dig into the nuance of how YouTube, the platform, is different from other platforms and how it how it works. So I learned a lot from Nico. I learned a lot from just kind of my own trial and error with it, and I slowly started to shift focus on the YouTube channel. And then and now I'm since Nico has left, I've taken over his position as director of content strategy. So I kind of it's a little bit obviously one of my main roles is YouTube, making sure that we're coming up with new strategies to grow the audience, grow the subscriber base, maximize views, maximize engagement, and also be able to just to be able to add in a little bit of value for Swan in being able to sell some of our some of Swan's services and stuff to new Bitcoiners and existing Bitcoiners. So there's that, and then I also am kind of overseeing kind of where we're going in Bitcoin content in the long run too, trying to come up with new ideas for content, how to like cast a wider net, and just because Swan's big mission is to I think it's like just to have more Bitcoiners. It's like we need more people to open their eyes up to Bitcoin. So really trying to find a way to reach normal people that have preconceived ideas about Bitcoin and they close it off and they don't, as Bitcoiners, we know how many times we try to orange pill people and they feel like they know what Bitcoin is and it's not for them. And, it's gambling or whatever. So it's like trying to open up people's eyes to Bitcoin, and so that they have a pleasant experience and they're not in staying away from the crypto noise, which YouTube is, famous for. Like I fell into crypto because of YouTube. I was a Bitcoiner, and then I went to YouTube, and then I started dabbling in crypto. So it's like trying to cut out that noise a little bit.
Right on. And I've learned a whole lot from you as well, as we integrate on a very regular basis. As for Chris, it's different because I knew him as a contributor to Bitcoin Magazine, and I don't know when exactly I met you or when exactly I knew you. It's like there's just this time where I just knew Chris, and Chris knew me. It's kind of funny. And we met in person for the first time in 22 at the Pacific Bitcoin Swans conference. And I want to know, Chris, your background. How did you get into the Bitcoin industry, working for Bitcoin Magazine? Did you have a career before that? Talk to me about, and then you made it to Swan as of probably about four months ago. So talk to me about that whole journey.
Yeah, so kind of a crazy journey. I think most people's journeys are. So I was working as a traditional engineer in the fiat engineering world. I'm a chemical engineer by degree. So I jumped between 3 different companies before ultimately getting into the Bitcoin space. So doing different things from automotive enamels. So, you know, on like windshields, you see like the paste that goes around windshields. I'd actually help create that. I would do color matching for bottles. So like fancy high-end wine bottles, or even like the Blue Moon logo, I'd help make like some of the colors, like color match that. So that was like my first job.
InBev?
Yeah.
InBev, really? Oh,
no, not working at InBev. We would sell to like InBev and stuff like that. Okay. But then I did, you know, this is fiat food to a T, you know, and you could read about it. I know Saifedean has a book at his warehouse, or the Safe House, talking about fiat food. So I was doing flavor, fragrances, and scents. So making perfumes, colognes, and like flavoring
phthalates.
For like what?
All those phthalates.
Yeah, like, you know, and, you know, it takes you, yeah, basically doing like that. I was kind of in the fiat mindset. I did that for 2 years as a safety engineer. And then my last job or my last company I was at, I was doing waste to energy. And actually it kind of bridges the gap between my Bitcoin world and there. So I was in a rotational program, kind of doing different work. So basically, you know, I was a combustion engineer for a bit. I was a mechanical engineer for a bit, working as a continuous improvement engineer for a little bit. And we are waste energy plants. We had 42 plants across the United States and a few in Europe. And basically towards the middle to the end of my time being there, I was like, oh, like we're creating power. Like we should start plugging in Bitcoin miners. Is kind of like coinciding with me going down the Bitcoin rabbit hole. And they were kind of like, no, it's too risky. We can't do it because of X, Y, and Z. And then I guess I'll keep this brief, but basically the company started doing things that I did not appreciate, and not, they were trying to force their employees to do things that they didn't want to do. And I was one of the people that took like exception to that I did not like it. And so I started to realize that I wanted to change careers. And so while I was kind of going down the orange pill rabbit hole of trying to get them to mine Bitcoin, because we were literally creating power, I, you know, ultimately had an opportunity to join Bitcoin Magazine in November of 2021. I worked there for 2 years to the day, actually. And then, you know, in December of last year, so end of 2023, I joined Swan. So I've been there just about 4 or 5 months now. It's been a blast getting to know both of you guys. And Ulric, it's funny you should say that. Like, I don't know how we met. I definitely think we like met or learned of each other on Twitter, but we met for the first time at Pacific Bitcoin in 2022. But it's been a great friendship ever since.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And like, of course, I was a contributor. You know, my journey in Bitcoin started in spring of 20, literally probably a month ago, 3 years. Started writing. You know, CK, and you know, Mark Goodwin. These are the kind of people that I knew from the jump. Mike Hobart, and so I was writing like literally every month. I had a piece. Very similar to what I do now, where every few days now it's a little faster. Every 7 to 10 days, I have a piece for Swan, video form. But like I used to write, and I don't know if you ever did any writing for Bitcoin Magazine, but I do know that I was aware of you, and then we met, and yeah, maybe it was just through Twitter. And I knew that you worked for Bitcoin Magazine, so you were like, you know, it's like I thought this. It's like, oh wow, like these guys actually get paid to work on their passion for Bitcoin. And so now it's like, and I remember when I first started diving into Bitcoin Twitter, Swan was just getting started, and I would talk to my coworker who's also a Bitcoiner, and we would kind of dream. It's like, isn't it, you know, wouldn't it be cool to work for Swan? And we would talk about this, like, oh wow, like imagine meeting Corey and Brady Swenson, all these people that, you know, work for this company that seems to be so successful. And they held firm even during the bear market, and during 2022, you know, doubling in size. And so over time, I got to meet a lot of Swan people because they were pretty much LA based. I got to meet Andy Estrom, early investor, Corey Clipston, you know, soon after. And then sooner or later, I was doing part-time content for Swan. So my question to you guys, I guess, Hurley, this has been your only company, and so maybe Chris is better situated. What is it like working with Swan versus, and I don't want you to say bad or good, but like, how's it feel working with Swan compared to your past companies? What's the highlight with Swan? And I guess, Hurley, you can answer that too. I'll go with Hurley first. You went straight from fiat to Swan doing the same stuff. Chris, you had a completely different industry. So I'll start with Hurley. Editing, fiat, Swan. Talk to me about the dynamic. Talk to me about the workplace dynamic, the incentives. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, it's miles different, and it comes down to kind of it's amazing working for Swan and all the people, because it's like this shared, like you said, this shared passion, the shared enthusiasm, and this common goal. Like you know, Swan is during their hiring process, they're like, you know, it's pretty much all Bitcoiners. And if you're not a Bitcoiner when you're hired by Swan, you become one pretty quickly. So I think that's a big part of it. It's just everyone is just, and you know, Bitcoiners are positive. Let's be honest. Like we have hope for the future. I mean, I like to say, you know, this isn't my quote, but I like to say it a lot, is that it cures your nihilism. Bitcoin does, because, you know, there's a lot of, as we know, there's a lot of negativity and hopelessness and meaninglessness and in the world. And a lot of it stems, obviously, as Bitcoiners know, from the money. So once you have this new form of money that, you know, doesn't seem like it can be stopped, and it's just kind of in the background, marching to its own beat, slowly taking over the world, you start to realize that there is hope for the future. And so working for a company where everyone is on that same mission to, in whatever little way we possibly can, with all of our individual skills, work towards that goal, it's amazing. It's the best. And I would just want to say to any of your viewers that want to work in Bitcoin, the most important thing is, and you'll hear this from, you know, Ulric, you said it, Chris, you said it too. It's like, once you start meeting in person and connecting with other Bitcoiners, amazing things happen. Because I wouldn't be working in Bitcoin at all right now, or for Swan, if it wasn't for the very first Bitcoin meetup I went to in Toronto. Literally just on a whim, because I heard Tomer on a podcast saying, oh, we're having a meetup in Toronto. And I knew he was Canadian, and I had followed Tomer's work and stuff. And I was like, oh, I should go. It'd be cool to chat with Tomer. And I had these ideas of doing my own content. And I wanted to kind of like, I kind of wanted to use some of his writings to, I had these ideas of using some of his writings because they were these really cool, short 3-minute, you know, bite-sized things about Bitcoin. And I was like, oh, these should make really great videos. So I was like, I want to talk with Tomer. Literally the first meetup I went to, I showed up late because I was putting the kids to bed. Showed up at like 8:30 or something like that. And it was dark, and everyone was in the back, and they were all kind of going in a circle talking. And they were like, and right away it was like, oh, since you just arrived, why don't you go and tell us a little bit about yourself? So I just, you know, mentioned I was like an editor and working in TV and film, and, you know, just gave them a little glimpse of my thing. And then right away, Tomer and Matt, another Bitcoiner, came up. We're like, you're an editor? Yeah. Oh, we're working on a Bitcoin film. We need an editor. And it was like, what? Okay, yeah, I would love to work on your film. And that was Bitcoin is Generational Wealth. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but that's watching. But that was obviously Swan was involved. Tomer had just started working for Swan, so you can see how that kind of turned into me working for Swan. So I would just say to anyone to meet other, if you want to work in Bitcoin, go to the conferences, meet other people, meet other Bitcoiners, connect with them, and amazing stuff will happen.
I think networking is so vital, and I plan on going to Nashville, where I hope to see both of you. I know I'm going to try to pull Hurley there. Hurley, you should be going to that Canadian conference. Are you going next in a couple weeks?
Honestly, man, I'm terrible. I mean, the only conferences I've been to is Pacific Bitcoin, and I've been to both of them, obviously. Because,
well, you got kids.
Yeah, the young kids, and then we have a new one too. So yeah, it's tough to get away. But I would love my whole thing was, I remember I was like, I'm going to go to the Miami one. And then the next year I'm going to go to the Miami one. And then now I was like, oh, I really want to go to Nashville. Screw Miami. But I don't know if I'm going to make it. We'll see. But
I understand. Chris, you had, I want you to more focus on your comparison between Bitcoin Magazine and Swan. Of course, we heard the chemical engineering stuff, and I don't want you to say anything bad or nefarious about either one. Of course, you're not going to say anything bad about Swan. Corey's watching, obviously, but tell me about the differences. Tell me about the differences, because Swan is a distributor. I think that's the right word. A vendor of Bitcoin. Yeah, a brokerage. That's right. Whereas Bitcoin Magazine's just sort of is solely a media company. Talk about the differences. Highlight the pros primarily for both.
Yeah, I guess I'll just come out and say, like, I've enjoyed my time at, both organizations, Bitcoin Magazine and now currently at Swan. So many great people from both organizations. I know CK is no longer there, but was there for a long time. Pete Rizzo, Mark Goodwin, the list goes on and on. I work with so many great people at Bitcoin Magazine. And I was just kind of looking for a bigger opportunity or bigger and better opportunity. And Swan provided me that. So I have nothing but love for Bitcoin Magazine, even though I'm no longer there, and I'm still close with a lot of guys there. And Ulric, I'm excited to see you. I'm going to be at Nashville. We'll try and convince Hurley to get a ticket to come down to Nashville with us in July. Yeah, I guess one is at Bitcoin Magazine, it's more of there's basically two things. It's like a pure media play, and that's kind of what's on the Bitcoin Magazine media arm, not just the magazine publication, but I was doing a lot of stuff similar to what Hurley's doing now, whether it's editing YouTube videos, or we had editors, but at the tail end there, I was editing and then doing live streams and doing a lot of like just video production, video editing stuff. And then obviously the other end is the conference arm of things. So the conference is kind of the main revenue generator for Bitcoin Magazine. That's kind of not hidden, or BTC Inc. is the parent company. So, they've kind of split up the conference team. There's Bitcoin Magazine. There's UTXO Management is like their hedge fund, like investing arm. And then there's just kind of like ancillary support services for everything else. But yeah, so like the big driver of revenue is obviously the conference. They throw, in 2022, it was quite literally the largest Bitcoin conference, the largest crypto conference, and the largest finance conference to ever happen. That was 2022. I think after the bear market in 2022, I don't think anything surpassed that still. But yeah, we had over 26,000 people descending on an event for Bitcoin. They kind of lump crypto too. Like I think consensus is probably like the next biggest that's ever happened. And that was probably like 15 to 16,000 in 2022. And then obviously largest finance conference in the world. It's compared against even a lot of the other ones. So, it's bullish, we're winning. It's a slow and long journey, but I definitely think we're winning the hearts and minds, as Nico always says. And so one's more of a pure media and conference arm at Bitcoin Magazine, where Swan is kind of like a more full suite brokerage of, helping with IRAs. You can buy Bitcoin, you can sell Bitcoin. Not that we advise that here, but that's an option. You can do self-custody using Swan vaults and stuff like that. And then obviously, Hurley and I kind of are working in kind of the media arm of things as well. So, whether it's helping with YouTube videos or live streams, or even like me, I'm a programming manager. So helping program out for just shows that our Swans go on, or shows that we host on our YouTube channel, as well as programming out Pacific Bitcoin. But overall, my 2.5 years in the Bitcoin industry, nothing but great things to say about both companies. And I've really enjoyed my time, and how many awesome people I've gotten to work with at both companies. So it's been a pleasure.
No, that's great to hear. And I do have a very positive, generally positive experience with both companies. It's been a joy to be affiliated with both. So you doing being a programming manager with BTC Inc. I remember running into you. You were managing the sports desk almost, where the four personalities would be up there. I saw Q up there, Natalie was up there. P was up there as well. And so my question is, are you going to be doing something similar with Swan this upcoming October, or has that not been vetted yet?
Yeah. So actually when I was at Bitcoin Magazine, my full title was actually a multimedia producer. So even though like I was managing the live desk, you know, my full title was kind of more in line with like what Hurley does, but with many companies in the Bitcoin space, you kind of wear many hats. So coming over to Bitcoin Magazine, I got to, coming over to Swan, my apologies, I got to reignite with P, my old coworker from Bitcoin Magazine. And yeah, so P and I are basically just programming the entire Pacific Bitcoin conference between the two of us. But yeah, like the news desk or news analyst desk always seems to be a big hit at all the conferences. You know, I know Simply Bitcoin and Nika do a good job of it as well at some of the other conferences, but it always seems to be a big hit. We haven't finalized it yet, but that's something that we would definitely like to consider. And obviously like utilizing all the stages and just people having a great time at Pacific Bitcoin. That's kind of what we're looking forward to.
Bullish on all fronts when it comes down to conferences. I think the Nashville conference will break records, obviously, and Swan will in my opinion, will probably double in popularity. So it's exciting to be involved with both. So I want to take a tangential turn because, you know, the careers are important, and it's lovely to hear how regular people, you know, it's like we're not, you know, neither of us are, you know, these big heavy influencers, but we've found our niche in the space, and we're creating value, and it's profitable, and it's edifying. But Bitcoin is also that to the world. And so what I want to do, I want to ask you guys a very simple question in 1 to 3 words. And Hurley, you go first. Bitcoin is. Fill in the blank.
I mean, geez, look at that. I would just say probably like kind of jumping off what I said before. It's hope for the world. That's 4 words, but
hope is good. Hope is good. Hope. Bitcoin is hope.
Yeah, I mean, that's really how I see it. It's yeah, hope for the world. I mean, like pretty much just jumping off what I said before. You know, it's I remember being in the place where it was kind of you don't quite know why. You can't quite put your finger on why things seem hopeless. But learning about the money and learning about how broken our money is, you really realize that it's a big reason why. It's a big reason why we you know, as Safety talks about, we focus so much on the present moment, and we don't plan for the future like a lot of our ancestors would have. So and having children, it's like that's huge. I mean, that's been the huge shift for me, is really thinking about their futures, and then their children too, and their children's children, which is like mind blowing. You know, to think that far into the future and far down from when I'm alive. So that's what it is. I feel like it's a hope to fix something that's really broken in the world.
It's amazing how the lack of hope has really shortened our time preference and has forced us to think and act with such short perspective. It's amazing. You know, people don't even plan to budget for the next 6 months, let alone, you know, multiple generations of time. Chris, Bitcoin is 1 to 3 words.
Well, Hurley took hope, but I'm going to say the future. You know, imagine shorting, you know, just take this in a historical context. Imagine seeing the first car and being like, oh, no, the horse and buggy is going to win out against the car. Or seeing, you know, the Wright brothers fly the plane for the first time, being like, oh, no, like we're never going to fly. Or, you know, seeing the internet in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and be like, yo, this is never going to work out. No one's going to want to communicate via the internet versus like a, you know, traditional letter. So I think Bitcoin is the future because it's the greatest technology we have at the time, and it's the hardest money that we have ever created as of right now. So I think, you know, if you're not bullish on Bitcoin in the future, I don't know what to tell you, because this is just like a cycle that repeats in history of like a new technology is shown to the world or invented or found or discovered. And then, you know, it basically levels up humanity orders of magnitude. So I definitely think Bitcoin is going to help so many people, you know, hopefully all 8 billion people in the world. It's going to obviously take time to do that, but I just definitely think that it's going to be the best thing for humanity. And we're like basically looking at the early innings of what the future is going to be. And I think I echo what Hurley was saying, like, you know, I don't have kids yet, but one day, you know, I hope that it makes their lives better, my grandkids' lives better, my great-grandkids' lives better, and just people that aren't even here in the world yet. And when we're long gone, the 3 of us.
Yeah, and I'd like to use this opportunity to congrats you on a future wedding date. I hope I'm not doxing you there, but I think the world should celebrate when Chris Alamo is going to get married. I know that we had to fit this event, this podcast in with all your wedding planning. So hopefully you get a lot more congratulations from this podcast here. So I'm happy for you, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Thank you, man. So I want to now, because I'm an engineer too, and that's my current trade that I do on a full-time basis. I haven't left the military industrial complex fully yet, but I do want to. What engineers do to break down problems, they go through different types of thought analyses, and one of them is the 5 whys. And while we won't get into maybe all of the whys, we could probably get down to 1 or 2. So I want to go down the rabbit hole of each of those statements. And I want to start with Chris. I kind of like to do a snake, like a fantasy football draft. So we have Bitcoin is the future. Now, why is it the future? And I kind of want to tug you in one direction. I remember I've seen memes and I've read history. And back in 1900, people were scared of electricity. People were scared of electricity, thinking it was going to kill them. They were going to get hung up by the wires. But it wasn't necessarily people as much as it was the propagators of older technology. So when you say Bitcoin is the future, why do we even need to say that? And who necessarily wants us to not go down that future path? Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, how much time you got? But I guess why is
not
Bitcoin
much?
Yeah. Why is Bitcoin the future? Well, we just had obviously the halving, and I'll just keep that bridge. I think all three of us obviously know what that is. But the halving is when the subsidy. So when Bitcoin miners do work, they get a subsidy plus, which right now is 3.125 Bitcoin for mining the block, as well as all the transaction fees. When you go back in history, obviously when Bitcoin was first founded, they used to get 50 Bitcoin per block, and then 25, and then 12 and a half, 6.25. Now we're at 3.125. So that's the subsidy plus all the transaction fees that go into creating a block. But basically, Bitcoin's the future because we've had a breakdown in our money. So I'll do the abridged version of what is money and all of that. But basically, we've had an issue, and a great article is by Nick Szabo, Shelling Out, and talks about history of going from, using salt to seashells to, to cattle to all these different forms of money as we've leveled up. And obviously, we got to a gold standard, through a large chunk of history. And then they started doing coin clipping and reducing the amount of gold or silver or bronze in coins, and kind of destroying the money. And then we've come up to present day, basically, where we've gone to 1971 and gone off the gold standard. And now we're on the fiat experiment for the last 50 years or so. Anyway, with that being said, we've kind of always leveled up monies, but then there's pitfalls with all of the monies that we go to, whether, it improves things, but it makes things more difficult. So Bitcoin's the future because right now it's the hardest money ever. So the halving that we just had, when we went from 6.25 to 3.125, Bitcoin becomes the hardest money in existence in the terms of Sharpe ratio. So the Sharpe ratio is, I think it's the risk adjusted return, or the amount of Bitcoin coming into supply every year is lower than the demand that meets it, basically. So right now in history, normally gold is at like 1.5%, 2%. That gold is coming into the supply, diluting the existing supply of gold. Well, Bitcoin is now harder than gold for the first time in its history, and can be seen as not only just it's been seen as the hardest money in history beforehand, but programmatically right now it is harder than gold and any other currency or commodity that we've ever seen. So basically, Bitcoin's the future because of exactly that. It is the hardest money that we've ever seen, and it is a better form of money because you're not debasing your purchasing power with fiat. You're not playing all of the fiat games, whether it's with stocks and bonds or with gold. The problem with gold is it forces centralization, and they're basically able to paper gains or paper games on top of gold by basically either printing too much money to not have the outstanding gold claims underneath, or using the financial markets to manipulate gold prices and suppress the price. This has kind of been coordinated and seen. I think even JP Morgan was fined close to $1 billion in 2019, where they were literally using over-the-counter desks and traders to suppress the price by basically taking out long-form option contracts and basically saying that they final settled the gold, even though that no gold changed hands. They were just like buying them at much, much lower rates. So they're able to suppress the physical gold markets by using basically like financial derivatives and instruments. And to end on the last quote here, I know Warren Buffett's not a big Bitcoin guy at all. He's not even really that much of a gold guy either. But there's something that he always said. He says financial derivatives should be considered like nuclear mass bombs or super mass bombs, basically. And I think we see that now. You know, obviously, it's a big part of the 2008 financial crisis. They're part of the long-term capital management collapse in 2000, and they were kind of even part of like what was happened in the COVID era of 2020. So that's my long-winded rant. I hope I condensed that into 3 or 4 minutes there.
That was a pretty good orange pill rant, man. Is that what you use on your friends and family? I feel like that was pretty. It was like 2 minutes or something, and that was pretty concise and pretty.
Yeah, I've gotten pretty good over the years trying to shorten it down.
That was brilliant, and I want to comment on the last part from Buffett. I mean, when you think about the futures that run under or on top of Bitcoin. I mean, all we do is count how many shorts are outstanding, how many longs got wrecked, and lo and behold, what ends up happening is the price drives the opposite way of what those longs or shorts were expecting. So it's kind of a sad state. Like, we can't truly have a free market without those derivatives, but at the same time, we do theoretically have a free market because those derivatives are trading that asset the way they want. So it's an interesting catch-22. But yeah, no, I appreciate that.
I'll add one thing to it though, because you're completely right. The one thing that I'll caveat is that it's kind of like heads they win, tails you lose, because in the event that they get blown out, whether it's large financial institutions or banks, the Federal Reserve backstops them. But if the three of us go bankrupt, you think the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell give a fuck about us? I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Like, if I don't pay my mortgage payment on my house, they will take my house. I get kicked out. I get thrown out of the street, and that's like, you're tough out of luck. But if 2008, when the banks had all these like leveraged longs on housing, and then it went the opposite direction, they're not going to let JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon and Citigroup and all these banks fail. They're just going to print more money to paper over it. And ultimately their stock goes up, they get bonuses, and, so they can dabble, they can short things. And when they get blown out, look at GameStop in 2021, the bank comes in, or the Federal Reserve comes in to bail them out. So it's crony capitalism. And I know many people, that's a whole nother topic we can dive down, but yeah, it's basically crony capitalism. Heads they win, tails you lose. So that's the last caveat I'll add.
And I would just say that, like, I think for the most part, people have been ignorant to the problem because times have been really good, right? We went, like, when I grew up, it was like, the booming 80s and 90s, and it's like, I feel like if people are I'm getting a big sense of people starting to actually wake up to the problem and actually be educated on money. Obviously, someone like, there's a lot of people that aren't, like, people like Bill Maher and stuff like that, whose recent comments clearly was really painful to watch. But it's like, it seems like the general public, like, middle class, lower middle class people that are starting to really feel the pain of this stuff is starting to open their eyes and use the internet to research what the problem is. And that's why I think we're, like you said, we're going to win. Bitcoin's going to win in the end, because once you wake up to this and you see what the problem is, and then you see Bitcoin for what it is, there's no going back.
It's amazing that people utilize literal actors to frame their worldview. And it's, you think that just because a guy can speak well on a mic and he has a show on HBO, then that means he knows everything. It's absolutely appalling. I know the quote that you're referencing, and when I saw his face and it said Bitcoin in the caption, I just kept going because I can't stand I can't stand those types.
It's painful to watch if you want. It's really painful. Yeah.
Hurley, I hope you have a good answer, because Chris had his 2-minute monologue that was brilliant. So now yours has to top that. No pressure.
No pressure. Yeah.
Bitcoin is hope, but I want you to expound on that. Why is it hope? And even so, what is it hope against? Like, what, you know, if when you say you have hope, you know, in the world, you have hope because there's problems, and so there's no hope needed unless there's something that you're hoping that something doesn't take place. So I kind of want you to expand on that a little bit as well. But essentially, why is Bitcoin a hope?
I mean, it's hope because, you know, kind of piggybacking off of what Chris said, he kind of explained, you know, the nitty gritty of why Bitcoin is a good money, and then he kind of went into. Then I feel like a big part of orange pilling people is educating them on why we feel hopeless, why society seems to be, our institutions seem to be crumbling around us, why you know, the cost of living continues to go up, and it is not keeping up with wage increases. Why you know, people can't afford homes anymore, and it's just going to get worse. Like, it's like, you know, you ask some of your no coiner friends, you know, everyone knows the housing prices are ridiculous, and they're getting more and more ridiculous, and they're getting more and more out of reach for everyday families. But it's like, then you ask them, okay, so if we know that this is the way it's going and they're getting more and more out of reach, how are your children going to afford a home? I guess they're just not, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's like they're just not going to afford it. And people have almost like resigned to the fact that, in my response, like, you know, they're just like, yeah, I mean, I guess it's like, we're going to have to hope that I can pass on homes to them or something, or, you know, you know, it's just this idea that everyone has this idea that, or this kind of feeling that everything is broken, but there's no solution. And so when I went down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, I was having my mind completely blown on so many different fronts. A lot of it coming from reading the Bitcoin. I mean, the first thing I did was read. My first entrance down the rabbit hole was Vijay Boyapati's piece, which is kind of like a condensed version of the history of money, more or less, and like why Bitcoin has value. Because that's what I was curious about when I first heard about Bitcoin, and it was, at the time, it was just going towards its previous all-time high of around like 20K US, and I was like, what if? I was just like, I became supremely curious, and that's what that's why I like that. I try to pose to my friends and family, like, aren't you curious why the market values it like this? Why is something that we can't tangibly touch, and that is just magic internet money, why are people valuing it at, you know, now $61,000 per coin? Like that, I was supremely curious. I was like, what is this thing? You know, so reading Vijay Boyapati's piece, it was like, I was like, I had realized, you know, everyone talks about this, Bitcoiners, like, I had realized how little I knew about money. And that's the thing, is I feel like most people almost get offended if you tell them, oh, you know, the people say, well, what is money? And, you know, Bitcoiners always say that, to ask that to people, but people get offended by that, because they're like, I know what money is. What are you talking about? Like, money is just like what we use for exchange. And it's like, you know, everyone has this idea of what money is, and they don't think that they don't know what it is, but they don't realize that it's actually a much deeper, you know, it's a much more important tool for human civilization. You know, because we a lot of people think that it's evil, right? Or we're taught that because the love of money is evil, and because humans have a propensity for corruption and evil, that our tools have been corrupted. Sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but it's hope because
go ahead. You're doing great. Yeah. I love this.
But it's hope because you really have your worldview. It's like for Bitcoin for me, it felt like I had a curtain over my eyes for most of my life. And I had this underlying sense, you know, whether it manifested in anxiety or you know, just like nihilism or hopelessness, or you know, I remember I used to literally have anxiety, not even knowing what it was, but it was thinking about how I'm going to retire, how I'm going to, you know, because I'm a contractor. I don't have a retirement, you know, I don't have, the government's not going to give me a pension or retirement plan. So I was like, what am I going to be? Am I going to be editing and making, you know, shows when I'm like 80? Like, you know, it was like, so
90, bro, 90.
Yeah. So there was like this anxiety and dread, especially after I had kids. I was like, Jesus, how am I gonna, you know, provide for these children? So, and then Bitcoin, you know, actually, like, you know, mind blown, and the curtain removed. It was like, this is is one of the, I'm not going to say it's the only problem with society, because I think there's other issues that stem from people's like a lack of meaning, but you know, I think the money being broken is downstream of a general disconnection from, I mean, I'm just going to say it, even though it might rub people the wrong way. It's a disconnection from God. People, a disconnection from spirituality. There's like this, like, you know, pervasive nothing
This
matters.
is my show. You can say what the hell you want.
Yeah, but like, you know, this whole thing that nothing matters, right? It's like, oh, you know, everyone has their own truth, and whatever you think is that's fine. That's you do you, and what does it matter in the end? We all end up dead in the end, right? So it's like, and then downstream of that is because all humans have a propensity for corruption and evil when left to their own devices. We have money. We have our money being broken, and then that just like tears apart everything. So it's just such a it's probably the easiest way you can fix the most problems in society is by fixing the money, and stopping from people being able to steal from us. At you know, just like you shouldn't be stealing. You shouldn't be stealing. You shouldn't have people. You shouldn't have the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. And it's not capitalism's fault. I'm sorry, everyone that, you know, people that have been like, I used to be one of them. That's why I have pity. You know, I feel for those people. I used to think capitalism. Oh yeah, what's wrong with capitalism? What the hell? What's going on? Why is the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer? It's just like you said, Chris. It's crony capitalism is the problem. It's the money. You know, so that's why Bitcoin's hope, because it fixes that.
Yeah.
I have goosebumps. Chris, do you have goosebumps? I literally, if we have 4K right now, you can see the goosebumps. And that's the thing. Like, I love the there's something else that isn't clear with a lot of people, is that if they don't see the problem, they'll never see the solution. And so a lot of people are very blinded, and I would say even purposefully blinded by the institutions that they look to for their information. Don't worry, you know, in every 3-letter media corporation from CBS, NBC, ABC, don't look over here. There's nothing to worry about. And they've been captured. They've been captured by governments because they're the benefactors of the Cantillon Effect. They're the benefactors of crony capitalism, because as long as the media corporations put the government in a good light, they're going to be taken care of. And they've gotten that promise over and over and over again. And I remember, you know, JFK asked, you know, media companies to hold themselves accountable to objective, to truth, to delivering truth. And somewhere between JFK getting shot and now, those media companies have definitely lost their way. This is a great talk. I want to get your perspectives on your favorite. I guess you guys kind of well, Hurley expanded on that. Chris, what's your favorite Bitcoin media to consume? Whether it's a book, whether it's a podcast, besides Swan, you don't have to shill Swan, you know, but your favorite, you know, media that kind of gives you the tools that you need to go about your day. It gives you hope, if you will.
I mean, I listen to more than most. I'm assuming, like you guys, like I listen to a lot of stuff, but I guess 2 of my favorite ones are Citadel Dispatch by Matt Odell, and then Rabbit Hole Recap by Marty Bent and Matt Odell. So those are kind of my 2 favorite. They're podcasts. But yeah, I mean, I have a laundry list of different books or YouTube channels. I love the Swan Daily Show. So I know, giving props to Hurley and Dante, like that's something that I always watch. I'm walking my dog at the end of the day, and we're just watching the Daily Show to catch up on the news of what's happened. But yeah, if I had to go, like 2 shows, like Citadel Dispatch and Rabbit Hole Recap are 2 of my favorites.
And Hurley, what about yourself? What gives you that energy? I guess mirror Chris, and sort of like that current thing on an everyday basis. Maybe not so much a book. What about you?
I mean, yeah, honestly, I would say I've gotten the most value and the most kind of knowledge around Bitcoin from books. Actually, well, between podcasts and books, I would say. Like at one point, my wife would like make fun of me because it's like, I've got so many Bitcoin books. I'm sure you guys can relate. That it's like, how could you possibly still have stuff to read about with Bitcoin? Like she kind of gets it now because I've since orange pilled her, but it's like on the surface, you know, it just goes to show on the surface, it seems people have this idea of what it is. And it's like, it's just some boring, it's like a stock investment. How could it possibly,
That's right.
How could it possibly be so deep to have like, you know, 150 books written about it? But yeah, I have so many books. I just like, I mean, I'm trying to think of, I mean, yeah. So Lynn Alden's Broken Money is obviously amazing. I actually want to, I used to always recommend what's it called? Sorry, Bitcoin Standard, obviously. But I think I'm almost going to shift to people that really actually want to learn about the history of money and everything. Lynn Alden's book is incredible. But it's funny because you can't actually, I realized early on, you can't get like people that aren't interested enough in Bitcoin. You're not going to get them to read a book. I've gifted the Bitcoin Standard to so many people, and I don't think anyone's read it that I've gifted it to. The only person that I know in my life that has read it is my brother. And I think he listened to an audiobook, and I don't know if he finished it. Yeah. But so it's like, so my favorite stuff is obviously books, but I've obviously gone to the path that no, Bitcoin is important. And I just want to learn. I just want to gain as much knowledge about it as I possibly can, so that, and maybe it's a way so that I can help educate the people in my life when they're ready to learn about it. I want to be able to be a really good resource for them to help them understand it, and even on a technical basis, which most people probably won't learn about, like how many people technically know how the internet really works, right? But I find it interesting, so I learned about all that stuff. But that just goes, sorry, that's kind of a caveat to why I think media in particular is so important, because not many people are going to set aside, you know, whatever it is, 50 hours to read a book. But lots of people are going to set aside 10 minutes or 5 minutes or 30 minutes to watch a video. So, and a lot of people are already on, you know, YouTube's a massive platform. So I think that's why I'm really passionate about education through media, like YouTube, and just like anything. Like I know X is a big platform for video now too, because I think about when I entered the rabbit hole, and like I said earlier, going on YouTube is really what made me start to see the noise of crypto. I followed BitBoy Crypto, and I was like, oh man, now I need Ethereum, and now I need Cardano, and you know, and it didn't take me long. Like I went really quickly. It was like a month later, I was like, oh, this guy seems a little sketchy, and I sold them for Bitcoin. But I think there's a lot of people that get lost in that. So I think it's really important that, and there's so many good creators right now in Bitcoin for media. Like I'm drawing a blank on his name, Julian something. He makes really great content.
Julian Figueroa.
Yeah, yeah, he makes amazing content. We've got someone, Bevan Waite, who did Tomer. He kind of adapted Tomer's amazing article, The Treasures of Satoshi Nakamoto, into a film, like kind of with AI, which is on our channel. It's amazing, and he's doing amazing work too. I didn't realize he was such a talented cinematographer as well, and just overall content creator and producer. He's kind of filming a series right now that we hope to be able to feature on our channel. So I'm really passionate about the content side of it, and getting people, because you know, I haven't gotten people to read a book, but I've gotten my mom to watch Natalie Brunell's Welcome to Bitcoin course, because it's a video and because it's easily digestible. And, you know, so I think that's where it's at for getting in that next generation of Bitcoiners.
Yeah, I'd say like, I guess adding on to that, like I used to have 3 books that I'd recommend if you're a big reader. It was in this order too: Price of Tomorrow by Jeff Booth, The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammous, and then The Block Size War by Jonathan Beer. I've now added a 4th book if you like reading, the Genesis book by Aaron Baron Weirdum.
Oh, that's on my list.
Incredible. So it's more about like leading up to Bitcoin's creation. So it talks about like the cypherpunks and all of like the failed crypto like crypto before it became cryptocurrencies, but like crypto projects leading up to it. An excellent book. A lot of guys in my Bitcoin meetup are reading it. And then I can't leave out my boy BTC Sessions, Ben. If you're a newbie and you like videos, just watch all of his tutorial videos and you will learn how Bitcoin works through just like osmosis, and just like, you know, some of them are longer, an hour, 2 hours, but like even a lot of his shorter ones, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, you learn a lot about Bitcoin by listening to BTC Sessions just break down how it works.
Yeah, Ben's awesome. He was one of the first ones I followed on, and he was like a small account at the time, and I was always like, yeah, he's invaluable.
And it's funny you should bring this up, Hurley. So like when I first got into Bitcoin, like I was looking, I guess I wasn't like searching properly. Like I was a Bitcoiner, like wasn't into shit coins, but I looked up like hardware wallets, and I can't tell like what's the best hardware wallet, or give me the top 5 best hardware wallets. And I didn't mention Bitcoin at all, which, you would think like, oh, like, you know, it's hardware wallets. Yeah, of course it's for Bitcoin. I can't tell you how, I'm pretty meticulous at like looking at what the best option is. And like, I went to so many crypto channels and I compared like, oh, they were saying these are the best wallets, but all of the wallets they were recommending were like altcoin wallets or shitcoin wallets. And it's because it's like, they were trying to like, this is your best bang for your buck for getting all of your cryptocurrencies on there. But like, I definitely wanted more Bitcoin focused ones. But it's funny you should say that. Like, I saw BitBoy Crypto. I saw I saw a bunch of these crypto guys shilling products that I would never suggest or use today. But it's like, I missed BTC Sessions. I missed Julian Figueroa. I missed like people that I was like, the content I was looking for, I wasn't looking for, like, I wasn't finding because of basically keyword search. And it wasn't for lack of trying. It was just like what the algorithm fed me. So it's like, you kind of need to be specific and say like Bitcoin hardware wallet or like Bitcoin only hardware wallet, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just very funny, like the gap of knowledge when I first got into space, like looking what's the best hardware wallet or what's the best cold wallet. And like, it was very, very interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, when I got into it, it was the consensus of hardware wallet was Ledger or TREZOR.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
But then even then, like Cold Card wasn't mentioned, Jade wasn't mentioned, like Passport was very small, but you know, like a lot of the ones that I'd recommend today, like just weren't even options in like the top five.
I think a lot of people that like, especially even if they are Bitcoin only, they want to push someone to simplicity, especially newbies, right? And I think there was this idea that Cold Card is too advanced. I remember I was like, oh, you know, it's the scary one because people were like, oh, don't use Cold Card because it's not good. But it's such a good way to learn about Bitcoin, like just picking up a card and playing around with it, right? It's like, I wish I'd done that
way more with it. Exactly. And yeah, even if you experiment with $5, $10, $20, like if you lose that, would you be annoyed? Yes, of course. But like, you know, that's like the price of admission. You know what I mean? Like people go to college for $200,000, but then they won't like mess around with $20 worth of Bitcoin. So I don't know. It's just the very funny dichotomy.
It is.
You guys are great. And this is why I wanted to invite both of you guys on. Two of my friends that I know and trust and know that your passion just drives you into continuous little mini rabbit holes. And this is kind of what Bitcoin does to your mind. Like it's why 150 books are written about it, because it's more than just a tech stock. And what you see, and to the audience, you're seeing this in real time. There's so much to learn about this, and your depth of learning is only as far as your interest is willing to go, because there's no end to it, because it literally is a type of foundational mechanism to our society in the future. And that's not Tesla, you know, that's not TikTok, you know, these things that we're encouraged to be vested in, to have interest in, they're so shallow. But then there's Bitcoin, which is completely opposite of that. Now, I wanted to tug on a thread that you guys were alluding to, your search in YouTube, and you guys are both involved in making media, and you're both involved in building YouTube products. And I tell people this a lot because they find out the work I've done, and it's like, oh, like where do I go to learn more? And I'm like, you have to be careful with how you search on YouTube, because they will run you directly into an affinity scam, a crypto shill. And so this isn't something that you guys can fix right away. But what the heck is up with the algorithm? Why is it that it's so easy to find something about Algorand and Ethereum, but when it comes down to finding BTC Sessions, who helped me by watching his video, I learned to use my cold card, and I was scared of it at first. Then I watched his podcast on it, and all of a sudden I'm a cold card vet. You can't do that if you just search, you know, crypto wallet, or even cold storage wallet, like Chris said. Where's the algorithm going to go? Is it ever going to get better? And what can be done to fix it, or even fix your interaction with it? And I'll start off with Hurley.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it's something I've thought about a lot, actually. And I think you know, YouTube is one of those platforms. It's like you love it and you hate it. It's like a lot of them, like, you know, Twitter. I feel the same way. And it's because I think it's because the algorithms have gamed our kind of base desires against ourselves a little bit, right? So I think about YouTube and you know, even just like learning about how to give our videos the best reach, because what I wanted to do with our YouTube channel is use what works on YouTube to get clicks with the packaging of the title, the thumbnail, to pull people in to watch it. So it's like, so our goal is to be a little clickbaity, because that's what works on without being too clickbaity and too kind of, cringe. And then so pull people in with that, and then give them just pure signal and, just truth and signal about Bitcoin, and not trying to, not like a lot of these other ones that are pulling you in with the clickbait and then scamming you. Right. So, and I think what I realized was, wow, when you mention price, it doesn't matter what it is. If the price is going down, if the price is going up, if you mention the price, it's going to do better than usual, better than just standard. And I think that's because we'll look at what the state of the world is, like we were just talking about. People are desperate to get ahead. People are gambling all the time. They're gambling more than probably, I don't know. I know humans have always had a propensity to gamble, but when you're being stolen from at a consistent basis, and the hamster wheel is running faster and faster, and things are getting more and more out of reach, you're trying to find the quick fix more and more. You're trying to, and then people hear about all this stuff with crypto, and they automatically think, oh, I can get rich with this. So it's very easy for them to want to click on something where they think, and it's easy for them to get scammed by something where it's like, oh, I could just put like $1,000 in this, and it's going to 100x, and I'm going to be rich, and it's going to be awesome, and it's going to solve all my problems, right? So I think it's from Bitcoin, from a Bitcoin content creator standpoint, I think it's important that we understand that, and where people are coming from with that, and why the algorithm is like that, and why YouTube props up those videos. They don't do it out of malice and wanting to scam people. They do it because that's what people click on, and they want people to stay on their platform. So it just goes to show that we have a responsibility to use the platform for what it is, but also to use it to spread. It's like, it sounds silly, but it's like, it is like spreading the gospel of Bitcoin, right? It's like the good news of Bitcoin. It's like, no, we have a better money now, everyone. Like, our money is crap and it's stealing from you, but we have something better now. So that's what we're trying to do with our YouTube, and that's I think how, and maybe it'll be fixed eventually once we aren't so desperate to kind of climb our way out of this hole that the current monetary system has put us in, maybe in 10, 20 years.
Yeah. And gospel is just another word, at least how the Bible describes it, as just truth. You could say truth, gospel. I'm pretty sure it's probably Greek or something. But so I don't, that's exactly
I think
what it
amen
is.
is truth. Isn't I think gospel is just like the good news. I think it's just
the good news. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Look at me. I'm putting Bible verses, hiding Bible verses in my videos, and you're telling me all this. I need to go to church. You're great. Gosh, that's what I get. You're right. Amen, truth, gospel, the good news. And that's exactly what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is good news, like you said, hope. And for our, like Chris said, for our future. And Chris, I want you to, I wanted to comment on something else you said, but I lost it. So Chris, do you want to kind of answer that same question? We have this YouTube problem where, again, like Hurley said, it's giving us what we want, but at the same time, Bitcoin is kind of what we need. Where do we go with that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Hurley hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of these platforms, not just YouTube, Twitter, or X, whatever it's called now, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, they're basically adhering to our inherent desire to have like gambling or degens. It's like in innate human nature, basically, that you're trying to get this quick fix, this quick dopamine hit. As Hurley said, why would I put $1,000 in Bitcoin and it can go to $100,000 over the next 10, 20 years versus I can put it in XYZ coin and it can go to $1 million, tomorrow, or it can go to zero. Like there's like that, like risk reward of like, all or nothing, roulette, all the chips down. Yeah, exactly. Like the inherent gambling desire. It's like, why would I want $1 million in 10 years when I can get $10 million tomorrow, or I can go bankrupt? Like there's like no in between. So I think, a lot of it is like what Hurley was saying, like, the people being degenerate or risking or like price or things like that in the title or thumbnail get people to click on it, and then they stay around for the degeneracy or doing that. Like basically it feeds you like not necessarily what you need or what you want, but it feeds into your desires, which is like your gambling instincts. And then I guess my other caveat will be like Bitcoin has a marketing problem. And this isn't like, you know, a dig at Swan or Bitcoin Magazine. It's we are bootstrapping something that is free and open source, that has no CEO, that has no marketing team, that has no mouthpiece. Like, you know, Bitcoin can't speak for itself. We speak for Bitcoin, for better or worse. I know CK and money people always say everything's good for Bitcoin, which I think is true. But like when we're going up against the XYZ coin that has a CEO and a marketing director and they can pay for YouTube ads. Like Bitcoin can't pay for YouTube ads like Swan does or Bitcoin Magazine does or fill in Bitcoin company here that has to do that. But that also doesn't account for overhead and stuff like that, where a lot of these other coins, their whole goal is to get it in front of more eyeballs for them to buy the coin to dump on retail. Where like that's not a sustainable business model, one. And then two, that's not an ethical or legal. I won't comment on the legal part because I'm not a lawyer, but not ethical or probably legal thing to do. So a lot of them, it's just like pump and dump, get in front of as many eyeballs as possible. The coin goes up in price and we dump it on retail or investors that are unwilling. You make a quick buck and then you start, instead of XYZ coin, you start alpha, beta, zeta coin. And then you do it's like rinse and repeat. Like how many times can we do this? And I know Corey's a big proponent of this with like, oh my God, what is the, Andreessen Horowitz, the Andreessen Horowitz Ventures, the term is, I think is it term, time to market. So in venture capital, normally you are investing in a business and it takes a decade to 20 years to see that, whether the company goes bust or they go public or they get acquired. Like it's like 10 to 20 years normally is like the lifespan. And you know, there's many different outcomes, whether it goes bankrupt or they become the next Uber or whatever it may be. In crypto, the time to market is like 6 to 9 months. So instead of making one bet over 10 years, you can make one bet, you can pump your VC marketing dollars into it, you can dump on retail, and then you can take the profits of that and then reinvest like either half of that or more of that. And it's like this whole scheme of getting more tokens out and dumping it more and quicker and quicker on retail. So yeah, I think that was a long-winded rant of basically like Bitcoin's going up against like the legacy financial system, not just in terms of the monetary aspects, but in terms of the marketing aspects, in terms of the social media aspects. And like we're taking on the world. And, you know, if you don't think there's a target on our back, you got another thing coming. We just saw with Wasabi Wallet leaving the US, Phoenix Wallet shutting down, Samurai Wallet developers getting arrested. So, you know, it's us against the world. And we hope that we can embrace everyone and welcome everyone into the Bitcoin ecosystem because it's fair, equitable, and, you know, yeah, I think that's the best way to leave it there. Fair and equitable compared to everything else.
It's amazing how going up against all these visions and big brains and TradFis and venture capital and Silicon Valley types, and yet Bitcoin is worth more than all of them combined. It just goes to show, like, if people can't see past the marketing shills and just look at the fundamentals, then they are truly without hope. And so it's up to us. It's up to us, these people sitting here and the people watching, that if you don't share that good news, if you don't share that truth, then what ends up happening is the people near you are going to get wrecked, because they'll either get wrecked by venturing in all this crypto stuff, or they're going to get wrecked sitting on their hands and leaving their savings in their government fiat denominations. This world is changing. It's changing fast. And Bitcoin is right there to lead that change. It's a peaceful revolution. It's hope, and it's the future. I thank Chris and I thank Hurley for joining me on my show. Back to work, the lot of you, and I will see you guys in the Slack. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, dude, it was awesome.
See you later.
It was awesome chatting, guys.
Yeah, great talking as always.
Thank you. So that was episode 9 with Hurley and Chris, my friends, my coworkers from my Swan Ventures. You can catch them, the work that they do on Swan YouTube. We'll have some links in the show notes. I am Sir Ulric, like my father before me. See you next week when we talk to the one and only Jeff Booth.